All right, all right, all right. 'Twas the weekend before Christmas, and all through the house, not a creature was stirring, except Canelo Alvarez and Caleb Smith and Stephen Wonderboy Thompson and Jeff Neal. Ed Carbazel here for MMAnews.com. Make sure you like and subscribe to the MMAnews.com YouTube channel. We have interviews from or with Juliana Pena, Austin Vanderford, Tyson Chartier, who managed Rob Font, picked up a win last night. And obviously, this content is there as well. So make sure you subscribe to the MMAnews.com YouTube channel. Click the bell notification, thumbs up, like the videos, and all stuff like that. Luke Lopez, shout out to Luke Lopez, who's been keeping up with the Sunday submissions. Appreciate the support, brother. You can follow me on Twitter at Carbazel. That's my handle right down there. So let's get right into it, man. Big boxing and the last UFC of the weekend. Coverage is up at MMAnews.com as always. So let's I guess we should talk about teams, because I feel like that's probably why the UFC card happened a little earlier than we're used to. Excuse me. So let's get into make sure I got the comments on here. Let's get into Canelo Smith. I mean, not for nothing, I was just watching the post-event presser. They're asking him if he was going to go up, try to keep going different weight classes, going heavier, and he was just like, it gets to a point that your body and your movement and stuff like that can't. If I'm talking with myself right now, I'm overweight. If you can't tell with this little double chin I got growing over here because of the stupid pandemic. But I'm sure all of us are. But I remember I'm 5'11", and I got down as light as I can. I know I can get down to as light as 176. I remember I did that years ago when I first started paying attention to what I put in my body and stuff like that, as far as calorically, not health wise, because I got high cholesterol. But so when I started paying attention to it, I remember when I would go training with folks, and if Johnny D watches this, he's the one that pointed out to me, old training buddy of mine. When I got down to 176 and I grappled with him, he was tossing me around like nothing, and I felt good. My energy was high and all that. And he was like, you lose a lot of weight, huh? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, what are you down to? And I was like, 176. He was like, maybe that's too light for you, because he was really manhandling me. And I was like, I thought, even though I lost a lot of weight and my energy felt good, I remember feeling a little bit more frail. So I like to keep myself around 185, 190 when I'm not in the midst of a pandemic and stuff like that. I'm 210 right now, if you can't tell by these cheeks. But anyway, so the point I'm making is because of the extra weight, I don't feel as great when I am trying to get to training as often as I can, with everything going on, you got to play it safe too. But, so to bring it back to what Canelo was saying about, trying to keep on conquering different weight classes. They tried to get him an answer in English, so he kept saying it's too much, but I got where he was coming from, because he's like, yeah, it's great, but, he knows his performance will suffer. His performance will suffer because of it. So, one of the things that there's a reason why he's considered one of the greatest pound for pound boxers out there, because he seems to keep finding a way to continue to evolve in the sport of boxing. Now, if I can go through the whole thing, how the definition of fighting has changed, especially for combat sports, because of the emergence of mixed martial arts and all of that. So, boxing is a one-dimensional. It's one dimension of actual fighting, right? So even when I talk about fights, I prefer to call boxing because it is the sweet science. So you look at the if you look at the analogy of the blind swordsman, the eyesight is gone, so all his other things function better than a normal person's. So that's what makes boxing the sweet science. Before boxing fans get all offended and up and roar, I'm getting to the point of that boxing is the sweet science because of everything else is cut off. There's no concern for takedowns. There's no concern for leg kicks and the kicks to the body and things like that. So because of that, the amount of effort that goes into fine tuning to what we saw from Canelo last night, and it was, for me, it was footwork and head movement. I mean, he was slipping punches. I mean, that stuff is movie like. That's Matrix like, what we saw from him last night. And then the thing that I found unique about his footwork in that bout was I mean, there was some retreat, but it was always to step back into to put Smith back in danger of returning strikes. So I mean, just that stuff like that right there is it's why boxing is called the sweet science. I every time I talk about boxing, I bring that up because I know there's always there's a weird beef between MMA fans and boxing fans, and there shouldn't be. It's a required asset to any complete fighter, boxing. So I don't hate on boxing. If there's anything I hate about boxing, it's the way it's marketed. I mean, and that's just because of you got these old-minded people like Aram and or people that just don't extend the same doors to open to other media outlets like Golden Boy. They ruin it for boxing fans and the sport. So they can do better about it. I mean, if what I'm saying wasn't true, we wouldn't see this YouTuber versus whomever as boxing matches and things like that. So I mean, Canelo just keeps on impressing every time he comes out, and I'm really glad that it was on DAZN, but that was some type of because he's not a DAZN fighter anymore, and I'm just glad that he got one in before the end of this horrible year. One thing while we're praising Canelo, one thing I want to mention, Boxing UK put this out. How long ago was this? I shared it this morning, and after the event. So it was like at 1 a.m. my time on the East Coast here, where it's freezing balls. Boxing UK. Again, here's my. If every time I try to share something on the screen here, it seems to get slow, so I'm not going to share it. But it's on my Twitter. That's my Twitter handle. If you're not following me, Boxing UK. I shared it. They confirmed. Because people, of course, are trying to make Callum Smith look like he's not that great because he was in there against Canelo. I mean, I never get bashing a fighter's performance or whatever like that. I mean, I'm sure we've all been guilty of it at some point, but that's when you got to step outside and realize what's going on in there. So they point out the fact that he was facing someone like Canelo, but they confirmed that he detached a bicep midway through the fight, and he still finished the fight. It looks like it was his left arm, and there's a photo. So check out my Twitter if you want to see the photo. You can see it's noticeably puffed up. And if you've ever seen a detached bicep, like Roy Jones has one, if you ever look at his old photos, I mean, people think it's because of his left hook was so strong. I know he said he got the surgery for one. There's an interview. If you look at all the stuff leading up to the Triller event, there's an interview about how he just didn't feel like the downtime was worth it. I mean, and which a lot of us that do train in any type of hobbyists like myself, I've got things wrong with me that I have a partial tear in my right pec that I'm kind of like, is it worth me at the age I'm at now to lose any more training time? Our time is limited on this earth, so especially if you're a competitive combat sports athlete, the more time you spend on the men, it's like less time you get to put into your craft. I mean, that's the thinking that a lot of these guys have. So, but that was some great boxing to close out 2020. I mean, if you're looking for your marquee events, I know we had Anthony Joshua and all that stuff. Hoodie against Pulev last weekend, and I really didn't talk about it, but there was the pay-per-view, and obviously that's where the focus was, for last weekend. Speaking of UFC and the pay-per-view, let's get into UFC Fight Night. I mean, everybody, UFC Vegas 17 is the hashtag. UFC Fight Night 183, UFC on ESPN Plus 41, whatever you want to call it, because the prelims were on ESPN, main card was on ESPN Plus. So, the first thing I always mention when I look back at these events, again, results are up at MMAnews.com. So make sure you're, if you want to see the details and the scores and everything, you can go to MMAnews.com and check those out. So let's, when I look back at these cards, the first thing I like to total up the amount of finishes, and we didn't get a lot. It was a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Those are a good size card. About a dozen fights on there. A lot of prelims that were on ESPN, and most of the prelims were finishes. But damn, if Jimmy Flick didn't. I mean, I've been following Jimmy Flick since he was fighting. They were talking about his path to the UFC during the broadcast, how he fought in the regionals for 10 years or whatever. And he had a little hype video where he says he wants to prove to Dana White in the UFC that he should have been there a long time ago. And my man is doing it. Listen, he walked away. He took his shot with the Contender Series from LFA as their flyweight champion. And, usually when you win a title, especially at LFA, that means you better keep your phone charged because the UFC is going to be calling. And he knew that too. He's been knowing that. And it looks like he's going to continue to back up what he says. I mean, let's go. He's got to get himself. He's got to get himself. I mean, if you're not following him, he's definitely a great follow on social media too. But listen, the dude pulled off a flying triangle choke on the last UFC pay-per-view that it's already been added to submission of the year categories and stuff like that. Because I mean, when's the last time? If you've seen it, I mean, off the top of my head, I can't think. I'm sure the Coast to Coast Combat Hour, Matt Hawkins, if you're watching this, how many times have we seen a flying triangle, flying anything in MMA? I mean, I know one has some. Well, if you got to go overseas to see some flying stuff, but off the top of my head, in the UFC, I can't remember the last time we've seen a flying submission like that. And the way he set it up was really cool because he's throwing a. And you know what's funny about the fight was if you're watching it, because Cody Durden, this was supposed to be 2 weeks ago. Cody Durden had pink eye, so they moved it to this card. And excuse me. So Cody Durden's a really strong wrestler, and Flick is a really strong submission grappler. So one of the things that I think I literally just rewatched is why it's so fresh in my mind. That's why I'm doing this a little late today. It's like I'm doing this at 1. I usually do this around towards just before brunch on a Sunday, but I'm doing it later because I wanted to rewatch some fights, especially this one, because the setup was so great. So Cody Durden's a strong wrestler. Jimmy Flick's a strong grappling guy, and usually when you get those guys together, Cormier commented you expect to see a striking, to see who tests a striking, but sometimes I mean if depending on where you've trained, if you've had any training experience or whatever coaching you've had, I mean a lot of martial arts, the intention to win a fight is to make your opponent fight your fight. So if you're a striker, you want to keep him off the ground and you want to engage. Have him, running away from you or trying to strike with you, things of that nature. And that's kind of what Flick did. It's almost like he was wanting to get to the ground on his terms by I don't want to say allowing a takedown because he did defend him pretty well, but when Durden was coming with his blitzing striking combinations, Flick was doing a high guard and stopping them, almost inviting, go ahead and shoot for my legs and hips because I'll wrap you up. And but it looked like Durden was wise to that and wasn't really taking the bait. So Flick throws a high kick, left high kick. Durden catches it. So when he catches it, he's holding the leg, which is leaving his head and his arm ripe for a triangle. I mean, usually from standing, I mean, personally, as a heavier dude, I just told you how heavy I am. I'm not trying to do anything flying because I know when I hit the ground, I'll probably knock myself out. But at flyweight, 125 pounds, these guys, the high pace, high energy, they'll scramble and flail all over the place. So he catches the kick, catches the high kick from Flick. Flick jumps up, grabs his head. They go to the ground, and he's immediately got him in he locks his leg, he does the catch to set up the triangle, and then it's all quicksand from there, because I mean there was armbar there. Durden had his arm briefly at the beginning. He had his arm across Flick's hip, and he was, you could tell Flick was going to hunt some sort of arm submission there, and Durden was wise to it, so he's like, okay, let me get this here. And he tried to pressure, or I don't know if he tried pressuring or pulling out, but as tight as Flick was, he just tightened up. He went for reached under the other leg, made the angle to made the choke tighter, tightened it up, that when his elbow wasn't through, his legs were clamped tight, and there's nothing but squeeze there. And no matter what, I mean, you can try to pound your way out, I mean, a guy like Jimmy Flick will take those strikes just because he knows you're going to go out or tap out at some point soon. He kept saying in his post-fight interview how he finishes fights, and damned if that isn't true. I think if you look back, he's got like I think it might be five. Is it 5 in a row that he finished by submission? I'd have to go back and look at his record, but I mean that's somebody to watch. I'm going to get to the rest of the card. I know I'm halfway through the podcast here, but if you look at him, guys like him, Brandon Royval, Brandon Moreno, Davison Fierro, and all the other guys, I mean, if you weren't interested in the flyweight division before, it got as hyped as it did this year, you best watch it in 2021, because there are so many dope fights to make there. I mean, any mix up those names in any fashion, and you have yourself main event worthy stuff, whether it be like a ESPN or pay-per-view. I mean, we're obviously going to see Moreno and Fierro again, but because of the draw. But I mean, you're gonna get a lot of high-paced, high-action fights out of that division. I've always liked the flyweight division. I liked it when Mighty Mouse was running it for as long as he did. Imagine if he came back. I mean, if they brought him back or something like that. I mean, but he's not going to come back. He's making that one money over at one championship, and I can't say I blamed him. And I think he's fighting, I forget which title, the Grand Prix champion versus flyweight champion. I think Mighty Mouse has a Grand Prix 1 title, and he's going to fight the division champion. So, I mean, there's no reason for him to he's doing all right for himself over there. So as we move up the card, though, Deron Winn, another one. I was just talking about Golden Boy. If Deron Winn fought on that Liddell Ortiz fiasco, Golden Boy MMA, and if anything positive came out of that it put Deron Winn on the map, as far as the UFC getting eyeballs on him and stuff like that. And he got the Deron Winn he's a short dude for middleweight, but it was a catchweight fight. They fought at 195, but I mean, he fought a giant in Antonio Arroyo, and he just put on like a wrestling ground and pound clinic against him. I mean, again, if it's going to be a decision, you want to be dominant like that. I mean, and we got a lot of that actually in the as we move up the card to the main event. Talking about the main card really quick. The ESPN prelims, the featured fight was Anthony Pettis versus Alex Morano. And one thing about that fight, Pettis is a young dude and, former champion. And they fought at welterweight. But interestingly enough, after the win, Pettis says he wants to and it was a great fight, by the way. I mean, it was one of those fights where at the beginning of it, I was actually concerned for Pettis because Morano kind of took him down, took his back and stuff like that. But you can see Anthony Pettis' face. He's calm, cool. He defended his back off of that. And then after that, it just looked like Morano spent his gas tank on trying to get that first round victory. I mean, how great would that have been for him? You beat a former champion in the first round. But again, former champion Anthony Pettis showed why he's still a force to be reckoned with. And then he just put on a striking clinic, kind of a foreshadowing of what we saw of the main event with Steve Wonderboy Thompson and Jeff Neal. But Pettis walked away. I mean, he had a couple of cuts and bruises or whatever. But the thing he said at the end of that fight was that he does want to see 155 again, and he feels he's got another title another title run in him. And at the post-fight press conference, I think he said he'd like to do him and Tony Ferguson over again. I mean, there was talk of that fight. I mean, I don't remember if it was short notice. I think it was. But that fight was pretty good, and it ended over a cut. So, with Ferguson's last fight, the way, things didn't go, I had him picked to win the last fight. And I wouldn't mind seeing them go at it again for 155. I think that's main card worthy, if not main event worthy. And, man, if Pettis has another, I think that was his last contract on his UFC. I got to check the post-fight press conference or his post-fight interview. But he did kind of hint that, his brother Sergio's over at Bellator. So it'd be kind of cool to have them. It's nice when they both fight for the same promotion, but I think it's cooler to have, if they can both, have Sergio at Bellator and Anthony in the UFC, and they kind of both make their way. I mean, imagine if they both would get titles over at their respective promotions. That would be pretty cool for the sport. Remember Pettis was like the first guy in the Wheaties box, so don't count him out. I mean, that was a big accolade for MMA in itself, getting an MMA fighter on the Wheaties box. So if he goes back to 155 and tries to do another run, there's plenty. I mean, 155 is going to be super interesting with the possible exit of Khabib and all the potential interim fights, title fights, or whatever is going to happen there. Justin Gaethje, Conor and Poirier going at it the beginning of next year, the middle of January. So there's a lot of stuff there for folks to pay attention to at 155 as well. So that was the Pettis picks up the unanimous decision win at the ESPN prelims, the featured prelim of the night. And then when we moved into the main card, we got us a couple of finishes, nice early finishes. Marcin Tybura, we always Greg Hardy on his way with his victories, knocking folks out with his power that he brought and the size that he brought. But we needed to see someone to get him to the ground to see how he does there. I mean, you talk about and I think I was doing these Sunday submissions when the whole inhaler gate thing happened, or whatever you want to call it. Because I am actually somebody that requires the same type of inhaler. Shout out to, I don't have it here, shout out to Boss Root, and I've been using my O2 trainer. So shout out to him. I'm not sponsored or anything, but I already own an O2 trainer. It's in the other room, actually. That's why I usually keep it here because I like to do it from when I'm working, right? And sometimes I'll do my repetitions, but that has helped me. So maybe Greg Hardy needs to get an O2 trainer. But when he went to the ground, Marcin Tybura just wore him out and pounded away and got himself a second round TKO over Greg Hardy. And then, this is a rough one for me because I'm a big fan of Marlon Moraes. I didn't know. I think Helwani tweeted. I'm surprised I wasn't aware of that. And then we do have the interview with Rob Font's coach again that I mentioned at the beginning on this YouTube channel. So make sure you check out the MMAnews.com interview with Chartier, who coached Font to fight Marlon. First round TKO. Boy, was that hard to watch for me. Again, I'm a fan of Marlon. I watched his title reign from World Series of Fighting, and then coming into the UFC, and it's just so I didn't know that he exited the Jersey MMA Mafia, or whatever you want to call it, with Almeida and Mark Henry. A lot of great guys come out of there, and I saw Ariel Helwani tweet that out, and I was just like, holy cow, how did I not know that? That's a tight crew and great fighters come out of there. So whatever the reason may be, I got to research that myself because I had no idea. That was that even happened. But it looks like the tweet that Helwani put out was the losses Marlon has picked up since that happened. So I don't know. Might want to mend some fences or whatever the hell if it's on that level. I have no idea. I don't like to get into stuff like that, as you know. Michelle Pereira picked up his decision win over Chaos Williams. I was kind of hoping that we could dispense with all the flippery, but hey, more power to him, right? Then Jose Aldo picks up his decision victory at 135 over Marlon Vera. One of my training partners shot me a text during that fight and was like, you know, how Jose Aldo kind of looked. He looks stronger. I mean, I guess he's finding his way at 135. I hope we don't get any bad news as far as, stuff, because, guys that are it's funny because he's calling out TJ Dillashaw for his next fight. I mean, I know he said he doesn't want to do 5-rounders anymore, so maybe he's not looking for a title, but maybe he just wants to, former champ versus former champ. I could see how that would sell. So, hey, maybe they could do it. And again, like I said, I'm not trying to knock Jose Aldo. I'm glad he won. I mean, he looked good when he made his debut. I mean, he lost the decision, if I'm remembering when he lost the decision. But to Peter Yan, right? Yeah. So now he's coming off of a win. So I mean, we'll see what fight they have for him again. I don't know if bantamweight has been as interesting as lightweight and flyweight has been in 2020. So maybe that's something they could start bringing some interest to in 2021. Then we got the welterweight main event, man. Wonder Boy came back. I had him picked to win, and he won in the fashion I thought he would. I love a karate-based guy doing all the things that karate should be known for. Not the karate always gets a knock as somebody I did 11 years of Ishinryu. I always love seeing my karate guys do well. That's why I think I mentioned Karate Combat last week. They show them on Sunday night, so if you're not watching them, you want to check out some true karate of that Wonder Boy level. Check out Karate Combat on their YouTube channel. But the point I'm making is Wonder Boy he adapts his karate to mixed martial arts. I mean, he does jiu-jitsu. He knows he's got a great guard. But his whole thing it goes back to what I said before about making your opponent fight your fight. And damn if Wonder Boy did that. But I don't know. I mean, again, combat sports is a heavy wear and tear on the body. And Wonder Boy, how old is Wonder Boy now? I mean, we might have to stop calling him boy. He's 37. So at 37 years old, training in combat sports can take its toll on the body. Something happened with his knee. Excuse me. Something happened with his knee. I think it was in the 4th round, and he was able to finish. Still able to use footwork and range and stuff like that, and counter striking and striking to finish the fight. People. It looks like he wants to do a fight against Masvidal again, just to to get the names together. I mean, that's definitely main card worthy, but Masvidal is at that. As if you're looking at marketability, Masvidal might be. It looks like he's headlining only, so you'd have to headline that. I don't know given the draw that Masvidal is, he might be only pay-per-view. So they'd have to do like a BMF versus the NMF, because if you haven't heard, Stephen Thompson's the nice mofo. So I mean, who knows? I mean, if YouTube fights can sell, maybe the UFC can find a way to market and sell that one. Let's remember the UFC is owned by the Endeavor entity, so it could be something that happens. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that could happen in MMA in 2021. We're seeing some strange things in combat sports, but whatever I guess makes money is what's going to happen, as we are going to see Logan Paul with Mayweather in February, and and it looks like Bisping and Jake Paul might get something going. Who knows? I don't even want to get into that. I'm old. I'm sorry. I'm an old man. What do you want me to do? But listen, this is the Sunday submission for December 20th. Christmas is this week. I hope you enjoy your time with your family and friends. From myself and everyone at MMAnews.com, please have yourself a Merry Christmas. make sure you like and subscribe to the MMA.com YouTube channel. Check out MMAnews.com for all the results and stuff I just spoke about and news for upcoming events. Follow me on Twitter at Carbazel, and have yourself a Merry Christmas. Be safe. Spend time with your loved ones if you can do it safely and socially distance or whatever. You know, I mean, our time is shorter than you think on this earth. So, you know, try to do what you can if you can do it safely and not get anybody sick. Happy holidays, everybody.